So good evening, everybody. Here I am, DMB again on June the 10th, as promised. And today we are going to have Stuart Maper. He's actually our outreach coordinator in the state of Texas. As you know, I am running for office in 2024. For the Texas-16 House of Representatives, and I am ready to be your champion and a leader for the next coming years. So I'm going to let you talk with Stuart a little bit. Stuart, if you can just give us just like a very quick intro on who you are, where you're from, and a little bit of your background, like, 2 minutes. So go ahead. I think that you have to unmute, Stuart. There you go.
Okay, am I better now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll start again. I'm located in Katy, Texas, outside of Houston. I've been involved in the political world for about 18 years, having been a national delegate 3 times. I've been involved in many campaigns, and I hope I have a pretty good perspective of what's going on politically, locally, and state and nationally. And I'm willing to examine our issues, and that's basically it right now.
So Stuart, I want to do sort of like a back and forth conversation, like if we're over like a cup of coffee or something like that. So
Okay.
I want you to tell our audience, how did we met? How did God connected me to you and you to me?
Okay, well, that's good. We have a common denominator, so to speak. We're involved in legislation in Texas in workplace bullying, and we are part of the joint co-coordinators for the state for legislation. I met Dean earlier this year in the state capitol, and we've been working on this now for probably about 7 or 8 months. And we had a bill up there. It didn't go very far, but we still want to champion this issue. And we're very passionate about this issue because we both had experiences with workplace bullying. So we come from different backgrounds, but I think that's our strength in different experiences.
So do you want to explain to our audience a little bit of, what the workplace bill is about and how did it came about?
Well, it came about because we met up with more or less a leader of this movement outside of Boston. Her name is Deb, and we joined forces with her, and we're representing Texas, and she has worked in this for about 10 years in Massachusetts, and the bill currently is in other states as well. We're both passionate about this issue because of our experiences, and we believe it's an issue that's very much misunderstood. And that's the frustration that we have. And so not only we want to do the legislative aspect, but we want to get this issue out amongst the public so they can get a clear understanding what it's all about.
So how far did we get with the bill, Stuart?
Well, we actually had a bill sponsor. Technically, I introduced this bill in the session in 2015. This is actually my 6th session introducing it, but this time I had the great resources of our organization and you. So that helped me dramatically in terms of the people we met and the traction we did get.
Yeah, so actually, Stuart and I met in Austin. We went to Texas Latino Conservatives training in Houston, and then we drove to Austin and we met with, numerous legislators in the Texas legislation, and we spoke to them about the Workplace Safety Act, and we actually got it introduced on the Senate side of the House, and that was actually Senator Cesar Blanco from Texas. actually El Paso. Yes. And then for some reason, I guess that it was not one of the priorities for the lieutenant governor, and it was not a priority for the governor. And, there were still other bills that, they were trying to work in. And maybe that's the reason, because they didn't push the bill. One of the issues that I have with the bill, and I keep asking back and forth, was, in my opinion, the bill was sent to the wrong committee. So it did not get the attention that it needed to get. And I think that that's one of the reasons, because they never took it, to a hearing in the committee itself.
Well,
I mean,
we have strange ways of putting it in the state. I think we mentioned to you, or did mention to you, and I know I mentioned it to Deb, that there are key words they use to define a bill where it goes. And for
Yes.
some reason, when I talked to the analyst on that particular committee, which we did introduce it to, the key words somehow matched up with that. I quite didn't understand that, but that's kind of the way it worked out. I mean, there was 8,000 bills introduced in this legislature. Only 1,200 are going to be passed and signed by the governor, hopefully. And now in the second session, special session, there's other opportunities, but unfortunately, the House decided to go home early.
Yeah, which is shameful. The Texas legislation actually meet every 2 years. What, 100 and how many days?
140 days.
140 days. So, I mean, I understand that it's summer, but in my opinion, these legislators have a work to do. They get elected by the people, and that's who they're supposed to be working for. So, there's still a lot of bills that are still in limbo. So hopefully the governor, can get the special session going, and they can actually go back to work. And, they get to pass a lot of those bills that actually, were passed in the committees, and either, the House and the Senate, and then they were sent for signature.
Well, it seems as though the lieutenant governor is determined to work with the governor to get some bills that the House, their version, don't agree with the Senate. But it's kind of crazy that they're given 30 days and they took a couple of them in this special section. So there will be another session. I can assure you that.
Yeah. So, Stuart, that, so as you heard before, and already, I am running for elected office in 2024 for Texas 16, and I decided to run as a conservative. I ran in 2022, and I ran in the Democratic Party for, numerous issues, and in a future, Java chat, we're going to have that discussion, and we're going to, talk about, why did I run in the Democratic Party to begin with, and why I decided to run, as a conservative in 2024. As both parties have their issues. I was talking with my neighbor, and he was saying, I'm sick and tired of our community either going, Democratic or Republican, right? But the United States is actually a federally republic based on democratic values. That's basically what it is. And in my opinion, people need to start voting according to the candidates' values, ethics, morals, character, their principles, what they stand for, and forget about, what party they belong to. Because we are destroying our nation from within. That's just how I see it after serving my country for 29 years in the Army and 26 years as a law enforcement officer at every single level. I mean, what do you see, Stuart, on your end?
Okay, well, I can tell you, all politics is local, and everything starts in the local, the most local basic. I can tell you right here in Katy, Texas, I helped 3 candidates run for school board, and there's nothing more basic and local that people are concerned about is their school. So the same thing extends in a little bit larger area as a congressman. You're concerned with issues of your people. And,
Yes.
and I think you have a very good point there. So I'm sure you, what's on your mind? What's your hot button, local person? And I think
Well,
that's where you have to start because everything comes down to a locality.
yeah. Well, I went to a meet and greet, with one of the political parties this weekend. And, I was a little bit disappointed just because, this is just how I am and how I talk to people. Obviously, I try to, persuade people, right, to vote for me because I know that I am the better choice. But at the same time, I am not going to tell the individual, like, for example, we have voting session, like voting day, the last day for voting day was today. And it was for 2 districts and it was for school board.
Right.
And on the meet and greet, they were telling the precinct chairs, to tell people who to vote for, and in my opinion, and this is me, and, you might think that I'm wrong, obviously, because, the Democratic Party wants all the Democratic candidates to be elected, and the Republican Party wants all the Republican part, candidates to be elected. But if the person doesn't have the credentials and the voter doesn't think that that person can be a good candidate, I mean, how can a precinct chair or how can anybody in any of the parties can actually, push that on the voter?
Well, I tell you, you mentioned that. Coming back to you mentioned school board. I'll tell you what happened here. And I went to the swearing in of these 3 candidates, and they joined efforts and they won. But how they started doing it, there was a group of parents who were concerned with issues. So they said somebody who believes in our certain issues should run for the board because they didn't like the people that were there presently. So they interviewed candidates and they come up with the 3 people that they thought best had their same values, and that's how they did it. So I just want to tell you that's how it happened here, and they were quite successful. And that's what we did here.
Well, I just hope that they do the same thing in El Paso because, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, what it matters, like I say, the values, the character, the ethics, the morals, the principles of the individual, because, I was talking with my dad and I told my dad, I say, I mean, I look at the platform, right, for the Republican Party, and and I look at the platform for the Democratic Party, and there is a lot of issues that they're very, very similar, right? But then at the end of the day is that they decide to don't follow the principles, and that's just at state and national level. That's not even at the local level.
Yeah, it's like do as I say, but don't do as I do.
Yeah, yeah. I have a huge problem with that. I am not perfect by no means. I have made a lot of mistakes throughout my life, and I have, fall down and gotten up again, and I'll continue doing better. But I tell you, at the end of the day, it's about you looking in the mirror at the end of the day and knowing your heart that you have done your best for that day. And that's all we can do as human beings because we're here today and tomorrow is not promised. I mean, I can drive, I can go to McDonald's and, it could be any fast food, Burger King or Whataburger. And, I can get hit by a drunk driver and that will be the end of it.
You get stuck up in the store.
Yes.
I mean, crime is a very big issue here in Houston, as it is across the country, and that does go locally to nationally. It has to do with judges, and that's what we have here in our neck of the woods.
Well, I was talking with one of the individuals that are helping me, as campaign managers. I mean, they do not want the title, but I actually have 2 individuals that are helping me on my campaign on that. And, we were talking, I was telling them, that my number 1 issue that, that I want to focus on is unity. We have a lot of diversity, and I understand about social issues. I understand, that we have Asian History Month and we have the Black History Month, and now we have the Pride, month. And I understand all of that. Okay. But, my thing is about getting back our government to, try to restore our government in the accountability, transparency, justice, and oversight. Because I'll be honest with you, we have numerous bills, right? That most of the times they don't even make it to the other side of the house, the other side of the aisle. And most of the times they don't even become legislation. And in my opinion, we have the 10 commandments, right? And if we live by those 10 commandments, that we try our best to live by those 10 commandments, we shouldn't need any more laws and rules, policies, nor anything else.
Basically saying it comes down to, I always say, basically, good behavior is what you learned in kindergarten.
Well, I mean,
be nice to the guy here, and basic values. The federal and the state have two legislative bodies, and they're both at odds with each other all the time, because they run differently, but still they got to be on the same framework, and they do compromise and hopefully pass stuff that everybody can benefit from.
Well, I mean, what we see, at least on the House, it's like it's like they've been spending so much time. They cannot they cannot agree with anything. It's like, I'll give you the example, right? So the incumbent for our district, her and another representative from the state of Florida decided to do a bill, something regarding something regarding to immigration, right? And one of the things that she wants the bill to accomplish is to actually allow every single illegal immigrant that have been in our country for the last 5 years to get citizenship or some sort of legalization. And to me as a law enforcement officer, that's like a slap on my face, because these individuals are illegal. I mean, I am all for immigrants that came to this country and they're still waiting for them to be allowed to stay in the country, but they have been working, they have proven to be good citizens for our communities. So that I agree. But allowing every single illegal immigrant that have been in the United States for the last 5 years, I mean, that's very careless.
Well, we're already taxing the situation on the people that are coming in right now, and they don't want to put them. I mean, in your
Well,
city,
they're busing them everywhere. They're
Yeah.
busing them to California. They're going to New York, to Chicago, basically all the sanctuary cities. And the constituents' money are the ones that are paying for the illegal immigrants, health insurance and food and shelter. We have a lot of veterans, and not just veterans, but homeless people on the streets. And those in the
You in El Paso, you've seen on television here, those people are they still in the streets when you are there? They still a lot of folks just taking up space in the streets in El Paso currently.
Well, they have a lot of illegal immigrants actually close to one of our churches, right? Because they cater to the poor,
Right.
and I am all for that. But the problem is, I mean, sleeping on the streets is not a place to sleep. Nobody should be sleeping on the street, right? But at the same time, like they were saying that they were putting them like in hotels, and all this. And I'm like, where does that money come from? What the constituents don't realize, they have a lot of, federally allocated money, but that's not free money. That money comes from the constituents.
New York they're putting them in fancy hotels up there. It's probably costing them a fortune in New York City.
Oh, I know, but New York is obviously it's a democratic, state.
Right.
It's very liberal, and and I get it. We have to provide, shelter, food, water. I understand all of that, but I tell you, if I get on a plane and I show up in Russia and I do not have whatever requirement they have, a passport and a visa, right? I either get sent back to the States on another flight, or I get put in jail.
It's the same thing when I went to Israel. When you get
So
off
what's
the plane,
so what is the difference in the United States?
well, for some reason, we don't see it that way. The people in control, they're letting people just come here at will. And
Well, in my opinion, it comes down to votes, right? It all comes down to votes. You know, it's the same thing with the Pride Month, right? Like, you know, I don't have no problem with the LGBTQ, you know, group. You know, I don't have no problem with having a Pride Month. You know, I have a lot of friends. Well, I don't want to say a lot of friends, but, you know, I have several friends that, you know, they have hooked up, you know, a girl with a girl, you know, a man with a man, you know, and they're great people, you know, and we shouldn't be hating on those people.
no,
But
I
at the
agree.
same time, if we go back to the Bible said that a marriage, right, in God's eyes is between a man and a woman.
Correct.
You know, so there's a lot of issues, you know, whenever people ask me, you know, like, what is my platform? And it's like, I tell people, you know, I serve my entire country as a public servant, right? I work in both sides of the government, you know, in DOD, Department of Defense, and then Department of Homeland Security. So I have a wide knowledge that some of these representatives just do not have, okay? These agencies wouldn't be able to lie to me if I was in the House of Representatives, because I lived it. I saw it every single day.
Your biggest asset as a candidate for Congress is you've experienced boots on the ground.
Yes.
I'm sure you could tell me a lot of stories and probably write a book about your experiences.
You know, but then you have some of these representatives that think that because they get on a flight and then they come to El Paso and then they do a VIP tour of a facility for, you know, let's say an hour or even 30 minutes, you know, that they know everything that is to know about immigration, you know, and even, you know, like Department of Homeland Security, you know, they have Customs and Border Protection, and then they have United States Border Patrol, you know, and after 9/11, that's whenever we merge. But Customs and Border Protection, their duties are totally different than our duties. You know, some of the duties and responsibilities, they overlap, right? But, you know, I couldn't even begin to explain the procedures, the checkpoints, and the port of entry, right? Because I am not Customs and Border Protection. I was Border Patrol, meaning I work on the line. You know, I track migrants, you know, on foot. You know, I chase migrants on foot, you know, because they were breaking the law.
You were in the trenches.
Yes. But some of these representatives, you know, they want to talk like they know everything, and it just, you know, it infuriates me. It's kind of like me trying to tell a banker, you know, how to deal with stocks, right? Like, you know, like I wish that people run on their credentials, nobody else's but their own.
Well, you know, what helps the people run, obviously, is big money and influence. But I think basically you've got to work the people. You
Yes.
got to press the flesh and go as many places as you can. I mean, as many different types of folks to get your message out. And I know you're going to do that.
Yeah, and you know, something that I've been telling the precinct chairs, you know, and these political parties is that by the rules, you know, they're not allowed to publicly endorse anybody or help any candidate. You know, me, myself, I am not going to be looking for endorsements from either of the parties. You know, if they want to endorse me for the primary, that's on them, you know, or if they want to endorse me for the general, you know, God willing, I get to the general. But, you know, me personally, I am not going to be looking for endorsements. I know a political candidate that got an endorsement from, from a local law enforcement agency, and, they thought that they own him, like they needed to do what they wanted him to do, and it doesn't work that way.
Hopefully, you get people that are going to support you. When you're talking about support and endorsement, they support you that think the same way you do, and that's what you want to do. Okay. And I think in a way it's nice to have somebody occasionally who is known to give you an endorsement. But the same token, they're not going to be solely endeavored to talking about you all the time, but it may help.
Yeah, but you see, this is the issue that I have. I give you an example. This is the primary example. So I met Texas Attorney General Paxton, right? Whenever he came to El Paso, and I approached him, and I expressed to him that I was going to be running for Texas 16 on 2024, and he offered his help. If I just needed to let him know, and then whistleblowers are very close to my heart, and I stand beside them, and I stand with them, because it is not easy to become a whistleblower. Whistleblowers are very, very, very special type of citizens, because their loyalty is to their nation, is not to one person, or is not to one organization. Okay. And let's say that I have, let's just say 5 friends of mine that they want to vote for me because, they know what I stand for, and they know that I will do a great job at Capitol Hill. But then I get endorsed by Paxton, right, which has been indicted. And, he has like, I don't know how many charges against him, and obviously, there has to be due process. He has to go through the process, but now he's suspended. Now.
He doesn't have that, and this thing is going to go on.
Yeah, this can last 2 years.
Yeah. Well, he's had a number of things happen to him throughout the years, and I'm surprised that he didn't get further before this point. But now the Senate is going to try him, and they're first looking at the rules, and the trial won't happen until August. So time is going on. So obviously, if someone wants to
yeah, more likely that's going to be extended. Yeah,
well, they can do that, but I don't think they want to keep it too long, because we're getting into the fall season and the next year election, and this has got to pass and end sometime.
Yeah. I just see a lot of, I just wish that the parties will get closer together instead of fighting among themselves, right? Because this Pickering and it's waste of time, it's waste of energy, and they should be focusing on, on building their relationships with their constituents to actually, whenever election time comes, people actually get out and vote, on their principles.
Well,
but instead,
again, if this special session was 30 days, each chamber should stay 30 days. And that to me was not the right thing to do, because once again, they only meet every other year.
Yes.
And there's plenty of things they could talk about.
Well, but it's like, just even the political party, right? Like there's a lot of fighting between several Republican representatives and senators, instead of, trying to come to the middle and trying to compromise. Like, I just don't, they should be united if they are in the same political party. That's what I'm trying to say.
Then, nobody is always, a healthy debate is good. You get views from different people, but you got to come to a compromise if you're on the same side.
Yes. So what other subject you,
Not
oh, so
everybody can get everything.
yes, you're right. And most of the time, some of these bills, like they may have like 5 prepositions and maybe 2 of those prepositions are good and 3 are bad. And sometimes unless they amend the bill, that's the reason because the bill doesn't pass. But representative jobs, it's not just to pass bills. It's not about getting elected, get to Capitol Hill and forget the people, down in their district. I tell you, I am not huge on taking photos. I am not huge on, I mean, I know that I have to do social media, for the campaign. And I know that I have to put pictures and take pictures and put them out there. But, that is not, there's so much that goes with being a representative in Capitol Hill. And now I'm talking about the U.S. Capitol, not,
Okay.
Texas Capitol.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the work of a congressman, specifically a congressman, is helping constituents in problems that involve the federal government.
Yes.
Meaning if they have Social Security problems, Medicare problems, other problems that involve the federal, they're the first line of defense to help them get through the weeds of a government agency.
Yeah, but and I tell you, because I have filed a lot of congressional inquiries, right? Because, it seems that federal agencies, they just don't want to do their job, meaning Congress gives them a directive and then they end up doing whatever they want to. And the problem that I have with some of these representatives, let's say, for example, they have, I don't know, 10,000 cases resolved. No, they're not resolved. I can tell you, if I go to in my district specifically, and I go to those cases that have been resolved, like they say, they're not resolved at all. You cannot go to an agency, do an inquiry, and then allow an agency to lie to a Congress representative whenever the constituent have proof that they're lying. And then they close the case and then they count it towards their stats. In my opinion, that is wrong. That's not what a representative should be doing.
You basically want to help the people and get the problem resolved, in a fairly amount of time.
And it's not just about saying, I support veterans, right? Because everybody can say that they support veterans, but at the end of the day, how many veterans we have with their cases, not going anywhere, meaning stall? How many veterans do we have that are without benefits? Paperwork is lost. They're laying on the streets. They're involved with drugs or alcohol. It's just bizarre to me. I just,
You hear about veterans trying to simply get an appointment to see a doctor.
oh, I can tell you. I mean, I tell you my own experience. I went to see my primary at the VA back in the beginning of January. Okay. And there's still appointments. We are in June. There's still appointments that need to be done with community care that they have not been done. It's like, how long does a veteran has to wait, for them to go and get some help, to go and see a specialist? And you ask yourself, why do we have the number of suicides, right? Why do we have so many people involved in drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, incidents in where there's a handgun involved? You ask that question, but then you go back to, to the VA, and I'm just talking about veterans right now. You go back to the VA, and then you have all these cases that are in backlog, right? So what type of help are the veterans really getting? It's the same thing with this, this federal funding that they send to the VA for mental health. I can tell you, veterans, huh?
The VA here in Houston has a very good reputation. It's named after the famous heart surgeon Michael DeBakey, and it's recognized as one of the better facilities in the country. I can tell you that.
Well, whenever you have a soldier committing suicide in front of the VA in our district, and you said, that you support veterans, we have a problem,
That is a problem.
and that happened not even 6 months ago.
Wow.
The individual couldn't, he was, he have issues with mental illness. He couldn't get an appointment with the VA, and he committed suicide.
Well, the whole thing is with our bill, the Psychological Safety Act, it's about abuse.
Yes.
And abuse comes in many different ways. And the different egregiousness of abuse. There's physical abuse and mental abuse, but it's still abuse. And we can't determine which is more egregious than the other. They're all the same thing in my view. They're all abuse.
Yeah, in
Not
my opinion,
physical or mental.
yeah, in my opinion, one is no worse than the other because,
Yeah,
psychological
agree with
psychological abuse can be, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and all of those, end up in physical abuse. That's the reason because we have so many issues with, with domestic violence and individuals not having good relationships with their coworkers or their spouses or their children, because they have not processed, those issues.
Yeah, we talk about bullying. It's a nice way of saying abuse.
Yep.
That's I've always thought that way. And sometimes when we want to get our message out, and I had an idea how we can visually show that. If we have the Psychological Safety Act, and we cross off safety and put abuse below it in red as a visual, that'll get people's attention. But we got to get the message out, and that's our biggest challenge, other than the legislation.
Yeah. Well, we have to do a movement on the Psychological Safety Act, and we have to educate the community because the problem is, it starts in childhood. Like whenever the kids are in school, they get bullied, by another kid, and then the parents, are always in school trying to protect the kid, but, they really don't educate the kid on what bullying is, what gaslighting is, and then, they grow with that, they go on with life and then they grow thinking that that behavior is acceptable. Then they go to the workplace and then it's a vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle. One of the things that I would like to do is like assessment, like especially like in schools, whenever kids come to school, they start their year, they get assessed, physically, mentally, emotionally, even if it's just with a counselor. There's a lot of things that you can get out of children, and you'll be able to be more proactive than reactive.
Well,
And
in fact, when I was involved with this school board here election, I went to the election night party. One of the other members of the board got elected to her position last year on bullying. That was her big issue. So I proposed to her that we come up with in the school district, some sort of task force with students and parents about bullying and talk about what can happen and make it part of maybe the curriculum, which was a bill in the legislature. But if not that, just have a discussion about what happens to the school bully because he becomes the workplace bully. And so that's my idea. And our friend in Boston, she thought that was a good idea. And I'm going to meet with this individual hopefully soon and talk about that.
And you see it on social media, people attacking each other. The other day, somebody called me delirious, right? And they very well know that my name is Delirious, and I can understand if somebody say it incorrectly, but write it incorrectly whenever you know how to write it, like sometimes people do things on purpose, right?
Of course.
Like the other day, somebody else say that I was like, I cut them off. it was a friend. Well, I say friend very loosely, right? But it was a person that I know, and then he said that I look to him like mini Veronica Escobar, right? Which is our incumbent. And I'm like, you are so rude. I mean, it's like apples and oranges, right? I mean, in everything, on how we talk, how we act, how we think, our credentials, what we stand for, our principles, who do we stand for and do we stand beside. So, but people have their own opinions, and you have to respect people's opinion. I try to don't get into arguments with individuals, because I always say this, right? This is the reason, because we have so many fast foods. You can, if you want Taco Bell, you go to Taco Bell. If you want fries, good fries, you go to McDonald's, or you go to Whataburger, right? Life is about choices. But the thing is that you have to educate yourself in choices, because once you make a decision, most of the times it's really hard to go backwards, right? So
Well, I've been a lot of campaigns, and as you get further in the campaign cycle, it really gets crazier. Believe me, it gets crazy.
Oh, trust me, I went through that in 2022. I thought that I was going to get attacked by the other party, but you get attacked within the your own party, which
Yes,
is crazy.
it gets nuts.
I've been doing a lot of training with the conservatives, right? It's nonpartisan. They welcome. It doesn't matter what principles you have, they welcome you. Because you can be something today, and you might be something tomorrow, just because your values do not align with that particular party any longer, right?
I had the opportunity to go up there to Washington for a couple of days and learn a few things, I gather.
Oh yeah, I
We'll
went
we'll
for
talk
3.
about that at a later date.
Yes. So, but I did go 3 days, and then I did a lot of online training, and I have some more coming up. And, I'll prepare myself the best I can for 2024. I'll give it all I got. My main thing is about, one, fundraising, so we can work on direct mail. We can work on, social media, ads, boosting posts, because all that costs money, and educating the community. All I can do is educate in the community.
Bucks along the way.
Yes. So, but anyway, thank you for joining in. I was just going to talk a lot about a couple of more issues, so you can stay on. And if you have any questions, you can post them on the actually on Facebook, because I cannot, or you can post them on the Zoom, because I have you on Zoom. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things before I leave. So so this is for everyone. And this is just an event that the GOP for El Paso has coming up. It's actually June 16, which is Saturday. It's going to be in the morning. It's actually from 8 in the morning to 10 in the morning, and it's going to be a 40s restaurant. They're going to have our former mayor, Dee Margo, and they're going to have our current district attorney, Bill Hicks, and they're going to be talking about all the things that the media is not exposing out there, and everything that, the Washington is not telling us, or Austin is not telling us as constituents. So you guys can call the GOP. They're actually on Montanez, 7717 Lockheed Drive, Suite D. And you can call them, you can stop by, so you can buy your ticket. I know that they have a breakfast. I cannot remember right now how much the tickets are. I want to say maybe $20, but don't quote me on it, because I'm not sure. Something else I wanted to let you guys know is I am going to be having a precinct chair engagement in August. It's gonna be August the 19th. It's going to be in the evening because in the morning, I'm actually doing an engagement for the community. I'm going to take one of the horses. They requested them and I have already committed to that. But the engagement with the precinct chairs, basically, I'm going to be, basically talking about my platform. We're going to have a fundraiser. We're going to have food. We're going to have drinks and just have a good time and try to come together as a community. This is not a partisan event. I want to make it non-partisan. So if you're, precinct chair in the Democratic Party, you're welcome to come. If you are a precinct chair in the Republican Party, you are welcome to come. Like I have stated many times, and I told the Democratic Party back in 2022, I am a conservative. I have always been a conservative. I never lied to the Democratic Party. I never told them that I was a liberal. But at the time, my values were more with the Democratic Party. But because their values have changed so much and their platform has changed so much, I decided to be a conservative and run more on the conservative side, okay? And if that means that I don't win the election, then you know what? So be it. Sometimes you have to lose to win. And my thing is about engaging the community and getting them out to vote. We have in El Paso over 600,000 individuals that are registered to vote, okay? And what percentage do we get at the voting polls? We need to change that. If we want change for El Paso, we're gonna change that, and I am going to need your help. So August the 19th, I will post an event on the page and on the website and the social media platform. It's going to be in the evening, and maybe we have a guest speaker. Who knows, right? But we're gonna have time. We're gonna have a good time. Something else that I wanted to talk to you guys about was, former President Trump is actually now being indicted again, because of classified documents that he apparently, right, because I was not there, but he was allegedly, he allegedly took the documents out of the White House. And I tell you, I used to have a top secret SCI whenever I was in the armed forces. And that is, if that happened, that is a no-no. You do not take classified top secret documents out of a building. I mean, you don't even use your personal phone or your personal computer to work on documents of that classification. And, there is a whole training that all these political and elected officials go through. So, I wish him the best. We shouldn't wish bad to people. That is very evil. That is not what God wants us to do. Sometimes we have to turn, our other cheek, to be able to embrace those relationships and make them better. And I tell you, whenever you do that, I mean, you have so much more peace in your heart. Whenever you were younger and you were fighting back and forth with somebody, and it gets really, really nasty, that's not a way of living. Our Sun City is so beautiful. We have so much talent in our Sun City, in our community. We're losing it. People are moving out of El Paso because for A, B, C, D, X, Y, and Z, right? And treat your neighbor like you want to be treated, and like I say, I am not perfect. I work on that every single day, especially with individuals that are nasty to me, because there's a lot of hate out there, okay? Evil is everywhere. It's like Satan is loose. And I tell Satan, get behind me, because I have one direction and my azimuth is going forward. It's not going backwards, it's not going to the left, it's not going to the right. I'm going forward. And whoever steps on my way, I'm just going to get them out of my way no matter what, okay? I just expect people to follow the laws, follow the rules, follow the standard operating procedures, follow the regulations, and just do righteous things. Don't be corrupted. Don't be like everybody else just to fit the status quo. Okay. We were all made and we were created beautifully and wonderfully for a reason. And we all have a purpose in life. And I can tell you, it's not to eat, sleep, breathe, and go to the bathroom. Okay. So I don't have any comments on Facebook, but if you have any comments, you can leave them below and I will respond to them on the chat. Recording the Java chat tonight, and I'm going to be posting it on YouTube as well. So people can replay it, you guys can share it. So people get to know me a little bit more. They get to know some of the things that I am working on. I am going to be putting things out there, one Java chat at a time and one podcast at a time. This weekend, I have to record the next podcast to send to El Paso News, which have been graciously nice to give me that platform to talk about things that matters to our local community and things that are affecting us as constituents. And me, my parents, my neighbors, and everybody else, we are all on this together, and we have to get on the bus together so we can make a difference in this world and live it in a better place than where we found it. So thank you so much for joining me today. Remember that our Java chats are every single month on the 10th of the month. It doesn't matter which day of the week it is, but it's on the 10th of the month. And you can join us on the Zoom like Stuart did today, or you can join us on our Facebook and you can leave comments there as well. Don't forget to follow all our media platform. In all of them are, the name is at DMBFOR, all spell out. So I am on Twitter, I am on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I am on LinkedIn as June-Deliris Montanez, and you can, my profile on Facebook is public. So, whenever I say something, it's for people to actually listen to it and share it. There's nothing that I will say either on a podcast or on social media or on my monthly Java chats that I wouldn't tell somebody on their face, okay? People that personally know me knows that I am very transparent and I am very honest, okay? It's not about being ugly. It's about being bold, courageous, and standing up for my beliefs. And those individuals that personally know me know exactly what I am, and they know exactly what I'm stand for. And they know that whenever I say that I'm gonna do something, I'm 100% like fast and furious. So live your life like there's no tomorrow. And I see you guys next month. And thank you for joining. Bye-bye. Have a good night.